Well, hello and welcome to another episode of Bikinis in Boarding School. I am your host, Jill Humphrey, and I am joined by a special guest tonight. I would like to introduce you to Jolene. So,
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. I'm ecstatic about this opportunity.
so I guess in in all of our lives, we always have like those main characters, and then we have the
Hmm.
supporting cast. And you were
Hmm.
always definitely one of those main character energies for me because our history goes back before Holy Highway.
Yeah, it's pretty deep, honestly. Yeah,
Right. And so then, as I'm contemplating doing this podcast and coming up with literally every excuse why not to, like, there were
sure.
days where I'm like, well, no, I can't record because my roots are grown out. Like, how stupid can you get over these excuses? So, like, finally, I just got
Right.
around to doing it. But when I thought about reaching out to you, I realized I had this weird, like, subconscious guilt that I'd packed around since
Sure.
I was a kid. And so we did a little preliminary call,
Mhm.
and I was able to voice that for the first time. And it was that if not for me, your family wouldn't have known about the school. You probably wouldn't have been sent here. But then I can
Ah,
also say, as an adult, like, I don't fault the girl who,
right.
I my parents found out it because of her. It wasn't her fault in any way. We
Right.
were we were kids. So
No. Yeah, no, I even back then, I never ever faulted you. I'll be honest, I saw you as, I mean, honestly, like a victim like I was. I mean, you know what I mean?
yeah.
I knew you had no participation in any of those decisions. So, but I am really glad that we got to lay that to rest. I
Yeah.
didn't even really consider that you would have felt that way. I kind of low key hoped your parents felt that way, but no, I'm kidding. I'm
That's
just
gonna be
kidding.
a fun little topic. Okay, so I have
Yes,
to like lay a little bit of a backstory here about how our
sure.
paths crossed. So we came from the same church as
Hmm.
kids and
Hmm.
in a very small community. And I have a very big family, like big presence in the
Yes,
town where the church is, big presence in the church itself. And then
yes.
just like big family with big personalities. So maybe you can
Strong
elaborate a little
roots.
bit
Yeah.
on that end of things from your perception.
Yeah, so yeah, like, you know, um, we grew up in the same town, which is also kind of funny because Suquamish is like nowhere, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, your dad was my basketball coach for years, and I don't know how your parents feel about this. I don't know how if they're gonna watch it. But hi, Coach Ross. Yes, do still have a terrible attitude, but I'm really working on it, I swear. Um, so your dad was my coach for years. Your sister was on my team. I think she was a little bit younger than I was.
Yeah.
And your sister is just like a lovely, gentle soul and was even then, and I was not. So like we weren't particularly friends, but we were on the same team.
Yeah.
And then, the broader church, it's like you guys are kind of related to everybody. Um, uh, the funniest story, and I've just been dying for this one because it's too funny, is when I was about 12, maybe, I don't know, somewhere from 11 to 13, going to youth group. Um, your cousin and I started going out. And all that meant was sometimes we would talk on the phone, like truly. We'd see each other once in a while at youth group and talk on the phone. And one evening, your aunt, his mom called me and she broke up with me. So your aunt broke up with me many, many years ago is another way that our families are entwined,
Oh my gosh.
which is just like the absolute funniest story.
So you ended up getting sent to Holy Highway after I had gotten back.
Hmm.
Um, and then I was trying to see, I had made a note and now I'm trying to see where it was. It was like this whole younger girl lineage thing of like,
Right.
because that would kind of span this gap of our time
Yeah.
there. So I knew Elisa from church. Her younger girl was Ayana. Ayana was there when I got there. So I was able to hear
Yes.
stories about someone that I knew from back home. And it was like this little
Yes.
link and connection to home. And
Yeah.
I don't know why, but just something as small as that gave us a little bit of comfort.
Did that feel comforting for you?
In some way, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I
Yeah.
mean, I wasn't just some random someone from nowhere. I mean, this is
Sure.
okay.
Okay.
I was known by someone that had already kind of
Yeah.
made it in with them.
Yeah. No, I get that. No, for me, it was very different seeing somebody from home. I mean, even like, even girls we didn't know, like Heidi, she was from Washington. I don't know if you remember her,
No.
but just know seeing people from where we were from. So I got sent just shortly before you got sent back.
Yeah,
And I told you the other day, I will never forget seeing you because I was just, I mean, I had to have still been there just a couple weeks. I was still on talk isolation. I was still really struggling with the homesickness and just the jar of this entire experience. And the first day that I saw you, like I truly will never forget it. I felt like my face melted off.
oh my
It
God.
was just so, it just shook me. Um, it was just so wild. And I kind of felt like a kinship in that, but also it was just a part of just the absolute trauma of the experience.
Right. There's this, I guess, as I've been reading this journal that I uncovered today on my hunt for pictures, that profound homesickness that you
Oh
feel in the
man.
beginning and how
Yeah,
long it takes for that to wear off. And that time that it takes to wear off is going to be different for everyone, kind of depending on who
sure.
you were as a kid, what you came from. Um, but as I read forward in this journal and talk about other girls that are coming there, I make these comments like, oh, she'll feel better once she stops missing home and things like
Yeah,
that of
I
like,
remember that.
oh, she'll
Yes.
be better after this. Like we're just kind of
Yeah,
calloused. We're used to this. We know what it is. And then
yeah,
there's an excerpt where I'd come back from a Christmas break or something, and the homesickness that was all over again, having left and then come back and
yeah.
re-experiencing that.
That's really rough. I think because of the distance, you were also limited, but I only went home once.
Yeah.
And that was incredibly hard. Like,
Yeah.
and I remember on watching one of these, you had mentioned that you were just waiting for like somebody to just ask you or say something, and
Yeah.
that fear that was instilled in us of saying anything, like I was terrified the whole time. Yeah.
So there was a really interesting rule about not manipulating your parents, and they
Yeah.
would have these meetings. And this is something I'd forgotten until I read it in the journal. But they had parent seminars. So before the parents would come meet you at the farm to see you, they would have this seminar and kind of
Hmm.
warn them what to expect when you talk
Hmm.
to girls for the first time. They're going to try to manipulate you. They're going to do this. So they're on
Yeah.
the lookout for it already, and we knew that you'd get hard labor if you tried to
Hmm.
get them to take you home. And I remember just being so paranoid about that. The same thing with the letters. The
Hmm.
letters were screened and you couldn't make it sound too miserable or
Right.
anything like that. But
Phone calls were listened to.
yeah. So you have a
Yeah.
story from when you were on break. Because I mean,
Yeah.
you were a good kid. You didn't get a lot of hard labor, but
So I
first one
actually did get
happened.
a lot of hard labor, but I wasn't necessarily acting out. I got tons of hard labor because I had a defiant spirit.
Mm,
Um, and also because I got a lot of hard labor for things like not cleaning properly, or you know what I'm saying? Like one time I got hard labor, the kitchen setup or whatever, you're responsible for the
yep.
dishes. Well, one of the Tupperwares was stained from having spaghetti sauce. I got freaking hard labor for that. That's like multiple times of it being
Yeah.
used. You know what I mean?
Oh
But
yeah.
the really tough one was I did get to go on an outing. We had friends that lived in Oklahoma. So I did get to go on an outing. I think it was for a weekend or something with them. And when I was at their house in Oklahoma, the woman that I was staying with, she's like, "Oh, your grandma wants to talk to you on the phone," and I'm like, no, absolutely not, because I mean, that was super forbidden. No phone, no, seeing friends, none of that, right? And I was like, absolutely not. I cannot talk on the phone. And she's like, "Oh, your grandma already talked to Sister Janice, and it's fine. You can only talk to her, but it's fine." I'm like, I mean, okay, I guess that's like fine. Nobody said anything, but whatever. So I, talked to my grandma on the phone again, cautious of the rules. I really didn't pull any manipulation. I mean, yeah, I did a lot of crying, but whatever.
Yeah.
Um, go back from the outing, and I don't know how much longer later it was. I got called to Sister Janice's office, and my grandmother, for whatever reason, um, felt guilty, and she called Sister Janice and told her that she had talked to me while I was on my outing. And I want to say it was like a week or 2 weeks of hard labor. Like it was the longest amount of hard labor I got. And
Wow.
that felt like such a setup,
Yeah. Yeah.
that just really felt like a setup.
I feel like there were multiple scenarios where we really were
Hmm.
set up. And I think that a
Thought
story like
crime. I
that
mean,
is just
yeah,
an evidence of it.
yeah. Yes, yes, absolutely. Just, the strange things like I don't remember what happened, and maybe somebody will remember some of the details, but something happened and one of our dorm moms left kind of abruptly, and so we or something like that happened. Maybe they were taking a girl out. I don't remember. Anyway, so we had to stop chores like in the middle of them, and we were at another dorm for like a long time. Um, and while we were gone, for whatever reason, an inspection was done on our dorm.
Like a health department inspection.
No,
Oh,
like a
oh,
white glove inspection.
okay. Yeah.
We had been in the middle of, Saturday cleaning up, so it was destroyed. We all got in trouble for that. Like they called us out because, and I can't remember the details of why it was. Then we get back and we were in trouble for the way that we had to hastily leave it.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
as I'm looking through some of these journal entries, it was a lot of like feelings of perfectionism and can't measure up and I'm giving
Oh
it
yeah.
my all this week. I'm trying extra hard and oh
Yeah.
it still wasn't good enough and oh I got double
Yeah.
demerits and some really interesting things.
Yeah.
So,
No, I think that like work and that kind of stuff was really used in like almost like a penal way, like truly, um, yeah, that was that was tough.
right. So you were there for the baby cow incident, right?
I was there for the baby cows. I was and deeply there. So, um, I don't remember the girls that were with us, but I was with Brother TK when we went and picked up the baby pigs, from the farmer, and they got donated, and they were, I don't remember like the reason, but they were, I guess, fine. They were just babies. So we brought them back to the farm, and they were really hard to take care of. They were disgusting. It was tough. And for whatever reason, they started dying.
Mm,
They started dying here and there. And when they would die, we would tie them up to the little truck. I think the little black truck was
yep.
it? And drag them out into the pasture on the other side of the water and leave them there for like the coyotes and whatever else. And one of the times we were dragging them out there, and I want to say it was on hard labor because my younger girl, Christy K, who I hope we could do like a multicast at some point, but she was with me because we were always on hard labor together because we didn't get along. And she was with me, and we were going, pulling a calf. I think there might have been two tied behind the truck, hit a bump. The baby calf jumped up, hit the back of the tailgate. Oh my gosh, Christy, I think she ought to have thrown up. She was horrified. I'll never forget that because we didn't get along, and she was horrified. Of course, I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah. I'm glad I have the journal entries to kind of remind me of the progression of feelings towards the younger girl because it starts out
Yes.
that she's so sweet. She's an angel. Poor thing. All she does is cry. And then it's like, okay, she's been crying for 2 weeks. She needs to get over herself already. We're all here. Like the sympathy's wearing off. And then there's this annoyance. And then there's like this back and forth of fighting and forgiving and fighting and
Hmm.
forgiving and like the whole intervention of chapel in those dynamics of like
Hmm.
forcing us to get along. But then I have this story of like pool noodles and beating each other with pool noodles to
Hmm.
like get the anger out or whatever.
That's
And I
funny.
have this recollection of us just like wailing at each other with these foam
Man,
pool noodles.
I don't remember that, but I would have liked to.
That was probably the closest thing we ever had to therapy, in all honesty.
Sure. Yeah, no, sure. Yeah. I feel like I kind of feel like I was punished with younger girls. I got my younger girl the day after I got off my older girl. So I went immediately off of having an older girl to talk isolation with my younger girl.
That's brutal.
Um, that was horrible. And I got part of me feels like I had three younger girls, but I for sure had two younger girls,
Yeah.
and they were pretty close together. Like when I finally didn't have a younger girl, it was like, oh my God, this is so luxurious,
Yeah.
Like
I
I
find
don't have to have the
journal entries
shadow.
where we refer to ourselves as OGs. The seven OGs got to leave the
That's
farm for such and
funny.
such. I'm like, that's funny.
That is funny. No, that's I leaving the farm was always so wonderful. Like towards the end, so I was there for 11 months. My graduation kept getting put off because I was defiant and I wasn't building a good enough relationship with the Lord, whatever. Um, and towards the end of it, I couldn't go any further in paces. Like once I think it was like algebra 2 or geometry, there was no help. So
Yeah.
I was pretty much stuck and I had an extended period of time there. So instead of going to school towards the end, we would go and like do like a lot of work. We'd, sometimes work at other farms, and I actually kind of loved that.
Yeah. Any excuse to leave the farm, in all honesty. It
You
didn't matter
for
if it was for work,
serious.
we were out.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. No, and like I remember the day that we were working in the garden when Morgan ran, and you were, I think you were supervising because I remember you just standing kind of by the driveway, and I just remember her running. We're like, what do we do now?
They stationed us on the road, like
Yeah,
at
yeah,
intervals, trying like
yeah.
she was gonna come out or something. Oh
No,
my
there's just
gosh.
like stories for days. Like I was
Yeah.
thinking about it today, and I'm like, how do I get like the top whatever number, in this conversation with you? And I'm like, just my mind's everywhere.
Right. There were so many. So you were there 11 months. Do you remember what month you
Mhm.
graduated?
I graduated in April because I graduated in the beginning of April. It was like 2 weeks before my 16th birthday, was when I
So
graduated. And so I went in May of
April
2016.
April 25th of 1997, postmarked. Seattle postcard, literally from you
No.
to a PO Box 157 in New Boston, Texas, with
Oh,
the supervisor initials JK signing off that it's okay for me to receive this piece of mail that
Janice
starts with hip
Cosatani.
hop then
Beautiful.
hippie. Okay, how's it going? And I'm like, this is a flashback because we were always trying to be creative and like throw
Oh,
back and forth rap lyrics.
oh my gosh.
Still haven't seen anyone, especially not your parents. Miss you, but I'll see you soon. And then like some weird like backwards three with little marks around it. And I'm like, okay, this is something. Like that meant something. It's some weird
It does,
symbol
and
or
I
code.
don't know.
I don't know what, but I'm like,
That's a code so good we didn't even break it.
no, yeah. Yeah, I'm like, I know this means something. It's like it's
Oh,
under
I
this
love
word.
that.
There's a yeah. So it
That is so special. I love it. I'm so
yeah.
glad you
So in
found
the
that.
hunt for the pictures, I find this trauma journal and some sweet postcards and stuff. I'll find the pictures
Oh,
eventually, but yeah, I thought it
I
was going
love
to be
that.
a little bit lighter of subject
Yeah.
matter when I get into this, and it's like I've had a couple interviews that we've had to reschedule,
Yeah,
not because they don't want to, but because they're not
sure.
quite ready yet. And it's
For
like
sure.
I get that. I had a few years to kind of mentally wrap my head around this and kind of take the plunge and do it. But this is brand new, fresh material hitting a lot of people. And I don't think until we sit with it and process it a little that we start to realize how deeply this did impact us. And I
Sure.
was sharing with someone last night, like we shared a very unique, weird experience
Yes.
and trauma bonded in that way. And it's like, as we try to talk about this chapter of our life to others, we can kind of gloss over it and use terms like boarding school or these
Hmm.
cute little stories, but nobody really gets it. So
No.
it's so healing to talk to people who lived it and experienced it and reminisce a little, but feel the things that we weren't allowed to feel, talk in ways
Hmm.
that we weren't allowed to talk, form this bond and this connection when I know that it was discouraged in many ways. Like you just couldn't get too
Yeah.
close to anyone there or they would restrict you from them.
Yeah, no, for sure. And also, trying to be respectful of other people's experience. I know that there's, girls that came away with, more positive, experience. For some girls, it was a sanctuary, and I want to be super respectful of their experience because, they earned it
Yeah,
just like we
yeah.
did, but for a lot of us, it was really tough. Yeah.
What do you remember about yourself before going into the program? What kind of kid were you? You talked about being a little stubborn and rebellious, but
I was, and like not in any like really huge ways, right? Like,
more like attitude.
um, yeah, I just was angry all the time. I mean, you know, I came from a very different family. There was a lot of uh dysfunction, I guess you could say. There was so much stuff going on behind the scenes. And like as a very socially awkward, teenager, I think that that's just kind of the way that it came out. It just came out like in anger and like, that kind of stuff. But before, I got sent to Holy Highway, first because something really terrible happened and my family really didn't know how to deal with it.
Yeah.
Um, and then, and then I had a birthday party, invited a bunch of friends to, and we're talking like friends from the, church, the school that I went to and that your dad coached at. So we're talking, at my party, the principal's daughter, our head pastor's daughter,
This
like
is a square party.
the square party. However, newly 15-year-old me and I think three other kids decided we're going to get some weed and we're going to smoke pot at my party. So we snuck off and did that. I don't know why we thought that we'd get away with it. Nobody would ever find out and it'd be totally chill.
Not a
Well,
gnarly
everybody found
bunch,
out
huh?
about it. No, everybody found out about it. Everybody was mad at me. They were really mad at me.
Oh gosh.
Um, yeah,
Well, and someone
understandably
has to
so.
get blamed. Like, I
Yeah,
understand that group dynamic. If it happens at the
yeah,
party, we need to make sure that we identify who the ringleader is
yeah.
and
I
burn them at the
that was
stake.
a no, yeah, and that was kind of a common theme for me. I think growing up in the community that we did, there's a lot of pressure, I think, to live, very certain straight ways, right? Like,
Yeah.
obviously. And I came from a very known dysfunctional family. Like your cousin, who we were talking about, your aunt, okay, um, she was in like Lamaze classes with my mother when my mom was pregnant with me.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
like that's how close in age we
That
are.
goes way
However,
back.
your aunt was an adult having a baby. My mom was 15. So
Oh,
that all that preconceived stuff,
yeah.
we're talking like generations. Well, here I come, wearing Metallica t-shirts. I got a chain, wallet, and it's
Showing an
like,
interest in her poor son. Oh
God,
gosh.
right? Seriously, like, and so like I'll be very honest, that community I felt just like kind of like an outsider and like a lot of judgment. And, I'd see families like yours and be like, oh, I just wish I could be part of this like great family and know people instead of just like going places and being this like awkward weirdo that I accidentally was. Um, but just always kind of feeling like it didn't quite fit.
Yeah.
And that was really hard. And so I think that kind of like added to that whole like anger and that like rebellion thing. So I'm like, well, if nobody's gonna like me anyways, I'm gonna do whatever, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. I
Um,
remember distinctly having that kind of who cares anyway? They already think I
yeah,
am.
yeah,
Might as well live up to the expectation
sure,
that's out there.
yeah.
An interesting thing, and I haven't even gone down any of my questions list. This is just too
That's I
fun.
know, I know.
But the weirdness of trying to integrate when you get back. And we had this rule that you couldn't look at a man, any man, didn't
Yeah,
matter the age, couldn't make eye contact. And
yeah. You
like
look
the
at the ground.
awkwardness of finding yourself face to face with a clerk at a store who asks you a question and oh my
Like,
gosh, I can't make eye contact. And just these weird flight, fight, or freeze type
Sure.
responses that you don't know which you're gonna respond with until you're in one of those situations where you do one of them. And
Right.
I think you can be genuinely disturbed with any one of your responses. Um, my husband startled me in the kitchen the other night, and I turned around with both fists up,
Yeah.
whirled around ready to swing, and I'm like, and that's
Yeah.
not normal
Huh.
first reaction, really
Right.
weird for me, but I've also got a lot of weird stuff on my mind, and
Yeah.
that definitely would not have been my reaction. It would have been freeze or flight.
Sure.
So the fact that right now, in the state that I'm in this protective mother, like reaching back to the
Yeah.
child me that went through some stuff, like it's good to see that first response and reaction is to turn around
Hmm.
this up.
No, absolutely. No, yeah. Talking about like the reintegration process, that's something that they talked to us a lot about before we graduated, warning us about, the world's attacks on us and, you know, just all of the, avoiding temptation and not going back to the life you had before, um, and so while I was at Holy Highway, my entire family moved out of Kitsap County into the Olympic Peninsula. So when I got sent to Holy Highway, I left the home that I grew up in. I, lived in the same house my whole life, everybody I ever knew. When I got back, it was a completely different town, completely different house. It was just far enough away at that age that, I didn't really get to stay friends with very many people. On top of all, I had got sent to Holy Highway. So obviously I was a, bad kid. And so, and also when I got back, I kind of got treated like I just got back from like the mental hospital or something
Yeah.
weird. Like there was something wrong with me. Everybody had to be careful about what they talked about around me. Just weird,
No
just
one knew how to
never.
act anymore around
No,
you. Like it's
no.
hard enough when you're going through that age where you already feel awkward, you feel
Yeah,
judged, you feel the social pressures, you're questioning if you fit in or not, and then
yeah.
you don't anymore. There's
No,
just no way around it. You don't,
no.
as a kid, get removed from normal life and then just show up nine
Mm-mm.
months to a year or
Hmm.
longer if necessary later, and
Hmm.
suddenly just be accepted back into the social dance or the family dynamic. Like all of it's
Yeah,
weird, and it's like what
no.
you longed for 11 months to get back to is not even there. And it's,
No, it didn't exist.
yeah, it's like getting to the end of the rainbow and it's like, where's that pot of gold? Like I've literally
Yeah,
been holding out for that pot of gold for so
yeah,
long. That's what's kept me
yeah.
sane for 11 months. Now what?
Well, and also, when I got back too, I also kind of got treated like I had this like amazing opportunity that was so very, my family very, never had a lot of money. Holy Highway is not cheap. So getting to go there was, this like I think you had mentioned before, like this amazing privilege and like this opportunity. And they just had this, and to come back and even have like anything negative to say about it, like it just, kind of made me feel guilty. And like, and that's not even thinking about, I don't know how it was for your siblings. But when I went to Holy Highway, life changed dramatically for my sister at home.
Yeah.
She has her own, I think, traumas
Yeah.
from that period of time because she was punished in different ways.
Yeah. No, I know my
She talked.
siblings do. I know they do for sure.
Yeah. No, she talked about because like, it was such a big deal to get rid of anything that might, have these like evil binds and stuff. And so while I was at Holy Highway, my family burned all of my CDs and all of my like band t-shirts, my poetry.
Oh,
And my sister had to be there when they did that. And it just absolutely broke her heart. Yeah.
oh my gosh, that's so
Yeah.
sad. But again, like I was reading and there's this journal entry talking about me being home for the holidays and burning things
Hmm.
on the barbecue to get rid
Yep.
of those. And I have like three specific things that immediately jumped out at me through this journal that like are deeply disturbing. And one of them is like the intense religious weird overtones in things that it's like some of the things I say, I have to wonder like what exactly were we being pumped full of, for me to be writing phrases like the spirit of such and such is on the house and needs to be
Right.
cast out. I'm like, what?
Right.
And
Yeah.
then
No,
like
absolutely.
I'm just a little narc. Like I'm disgusted with some of the things of like you wrote a note and tattled on girls for sharing lipstick, which was strictly forbidden. I'm like, I didn't remember that we couldn't share lipstick. And I'm like, I was literally that girl that turned you in for sharing lipstick. So to any of you
Yeah.
that I turned in for the lipstick incident, I am so sorry. Like I'm not that person. I did not grow up to be that person, and I'm not proud of who I was.
No,
That
that's very fair. And they worked really hard to kind of that's like this mind game stuff where you could be on hard labor one week and then next week you could be supervising it.
yeah.
It's like that, and almost like that reward if you caught somebody else doing something
Yes.
wrong. Not only were you bringing out something wrong that they were doing, but somehow like you were getting merits with God or something. I don't know.
Right, right. It's weird. So there's definitely some stuff to unpack there. I wrote about the first younger girl that I got that had cut
Mhm.
herself and then been taken off
Yeah.
to another facility.
Yeah.
And the way that I talk about her mental health is so callous
Yeah.
and so I lack any empathy or compassion or understanding. I'm very like snide in my comments. And I mean, it's sad because I had no understanding
Yeah.
that, mental health issues are real.
Yeah.
Um,
No, yeah, absolutely.
there was
And
absolutely
also,
nothing.
you probably saw it as something too, like, great, now I'm gonna get in trouble too.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely. But
Yeah.
then to say I too was dealing with my own batch of mental health issues
Sure.
at that time, I just didn't know it. And now I can look
Yeah.
back and see that, but just be like, my gosh, like maybe
Hmm.
some of the things I did to get there weren't as extreme as
Yeah.
the punishment necessarily, but
Yeah.
then I look at things like that and it was like, wow, I could have been a better person. I'm glad I've learned from those days. And,
Right.
all with this umbrella of God over all of
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And it's just weird. It's going to be interesting to get some insight from my brother, who's a psychologist, and his wife, who is too.
Yeah. Oh God,
They're
yes,
kind of following
absolutely.
along. So here he's witnessed from his own perspective being one of the younger
Sure.
siblings that was still at home,
Interesting.
and then his professional education and training, and then just observation of family dynamic over the years. So I
Okay, so
know.
we got a girls
Yep.
group meeting we got to do. We got a siblings we got to do.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, Lindsay already volunteered to
Oh,
talk
yes.
and share some of her stuff. So we've got that one coming up. It's gonna
Yeah.
be really interesting.
It's actually really funny, just like just kind of off topic, but just adds to our kind of forever intertwining is I've really struggled, and in fact walked completely some years ago, walked away from the church and religion and all of that, right? And when I finally did, I did it really kind of hurt and angrily, from my own experiences and whatnot, but your sister is such a gentle and understanding human being that I say she's probably one of the like five people who have made me not completely give up on religious people. Like truly just feel honored to know her.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's yeah, we could go on and on and on
No,
about
right?
that aspect, but at its core, there's this piece of authenticity. And I think
Yes.
people get so distracted and caught up on semantics, opinions, who's
Well,
right,
I
what's
get
right.
even just like, is this person genuine? That's kind of
Yeah,
like my tough part is, and I think that Holy Highway did a lot of that. There's a lot of times that I just really felt set up for failure.
yeah,
And it's just really nice to know people that you're like, I don't feel that way with you.
right.
And
And
I think that a lot of us, some of us I know for sure kind of have that suspicious distrust,
right.
just because of the way it was used against us.
100%. Another thing that I wouldn't be surprised if we struggle with, many of us struggle with who were there, is the ability to be our authentic selves,
Yeah.
because that wasn't allowed. And that was something that came
Mm-mm.
up in my call with Ayana, and it really resonated. And I was thinking about it, and it was, this is the first time that we had communication as our authentic selves without this fear of how is our communication going to be perceived, even though we're doing it
Yeah.
in such a public format like this. But, like we said
No.
the other day, they did a pretty good job on us that it's taken us this long to actually
Right.
talk about these things.
No, absolutely. Holy Highway is the first, is probably the place, like, um, is the first place that really taught me how to mask, really taught me how to play a game, and just really kind of come to terms with doing something inauthentically, which is really hard for me. And just I would probably say that sometimes that works in my favor. I can work like nobody's business, and I can suffer a lot, but also like, is that great? Is that a great ability to
Right?
have?
Yeah, we pat ourselves on the back for things like that. And then we reach this
Yeah.
point where we're like, is that really something to be bragging about? Or is that maybe
Oh,
just trauma
yeah,
response manifesting in my
sure.
adult life?
Right. Yep.
Oh my goodness. So let's see. Favorite farm meal.
Ooh, so I still occasionally make the white chicken enchiladas. I loved those. I think I think that might be one of the only ones that I kept all these years. Other than that, like I still love Nutrageous.
Isn't that
Um,
funny? So far, we're like
um,
all of us that had the Nutrageous still like that.
it's a quality candy bar. What can you say?
Yeah.
Um,
I looked for
I'll
one
not.
yesterday and didn't find it. So I'm gonna
Oh
have to hunt
man,
one down.
yeah. I still can't stand Dr. Pepper or Dr. Thunder or any of the doctors. Although at the time it was absolutely acceptable no matter what. I mean, that was the least of the terrible things we had to eat. So, but so I already had an eating disorder going into Holy Highway, but I didn't have the language for it and I didn't really recognize it, right? I was just a hyper picky eater my whole life.
Okay.
Well, it never went away, and it's actually a disorder. Um, so it was really hard for me because not only were we super restricted on our intake, everything measured and, you know, all that stuff, but also it was extra hard for me because what we were given um, was sometimes insurmountable for me.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I got really good at faking a lot of things. And so I really had a hard time with being hungry while I was there.
Yeah.
Um, one of the ways that I dealt with it, and in particularly, this worked very well when I was in Hope Dorm with Sister Charlotte because she was just a sweet old lady. So I stole a lot of food and I hid it in a lot of places around the farm.
That makes me
You
so
know,
happy. I love this.
we'd be cleaning the pantry. I mean, I've had candy bars in my underwear, nut rate, all of that, anything that was small and packaged. And sometimes I'd hide it out in the barn, wherever was kind of convenient, under trash liners, all sorts of just temporary hiding spots.
Yeah.
And so I did that a lot. I
Wow.
did a lot of stealing food.
Okay, so I
Um,
found out from Mayana too about like little licks of peanut butter and things in a certain one of the dorms because the pantry would
yeah,
be left open. And it's like
yeah.
I also found out about a all you can eat pizza place, and had I chosen a different place to go for one of my outings, I could have had all you can eat. It's like these little things that I'm finding out. And
Yeah,
hunger was an issue. Like this isn't
yeah,
just
yeah,
my mind playing tricks on me, because now I have this
yeah.
journal, and a common thread through this is so hungry, and
Yes,
very food focused, because like I write about this
yes,
wedding that we went to, and it was pretty lame. All we got was a little tiny sliver of cake. And then,
yeah,
I mean, these stories of going for long, long stretches without food and then only got this much. And then there'll be another story. we were actually full. We stuffed our faces. Like these little
Yeah.
stories splattered in, and it's like highlighting this food when we got to eat our fill.
Oh yeah, no, it food was, and what's weird too is like food was one of, food indulgence and obsession with food in and of itself is like the sin and, on and on. But food was used highly to control us. Like I would have done anything for a candy bar and Dr. Thunder. And, like, oh, Brother TK, you want volunteers to go do something terrible? I got you. I'm on
Right.
it. Yes,
Right.
absolutely. Because we're going to get a snack.
Yeah.
Um, I don't, God. So do you remember? And I think, God, I feel like, really feel like it was on April Fool's Day. Do you remember getting called? So, once in a while, if they would ring the bell at the chapel, everybody had to assemble.
Mhm.
So we got all assembled to the chapel, and this was like later in the evening too. We all got loaded in the vans and we all got taken into town. I want to say it was probably to Dairy Queen or something. We all got out of the van and we were walking towards it. And none of us trusted it, right? For good reason, because right afterwards, Sister Janice turned around. She's like, April Fools. And we all got back in the vans and we all went back. And yeah, when we got back there, they gave us, I want probably a Nutrageous and a pop or whatever. But the absolute heart-wrenching devastation of
Yeah.
thinking we're gonna get Dairy Queen and then being like, just kidding, like that's mean.
Okay, so based on the date, I would have been there, but I'm
I
not
feel like
having a
it.
distinct memory of it. But I do have memories of those fire drills that we would have
Yeah,
sometimes where they
yeah,
would ring the bell, didn't matter what time it
yeah,
was, come out and assemble.
yeah.
Um,
And sometimes for weird things. I remember one time it happening because a lot of girls aren't, being honest about their sin and have like a lot of work to do too. Like very strange. Like
yeah,
you never knew if it was just for information or, for a dorm change or if you were all in trouble.
yeah. There's a so the journal that I have is from my first stay there, not the second. I think I gave up any written evidence. I
Sure.
kind of wish I'd had one from both, but no, the first time.
Right.
And we were kept at the chapel until 2 a.m. because people needed to confess their sins and get right with
Yep.
God and all of this. And I just remember, like, one of the whoever was up front saying that God was telling them that there were still people that weren't
Yes.
giving things up and needed to give something up. And we would stay here all night if we had to.
Yep.
And I had this little crescent moon patch sewn on the back pocket of my jeans. And it had like gold stitching around it and little gold stars on it, like a little black satin crescent moon. And I loved this little patch. I remember finding it at some cute little shop in Pike Place back in Seattle, and like the era where I frayed the ends of my jeans and I had my
Mm-hmm.
little patch sewn on. And I'm like, well, this looks witchy enough. Maybe this is
Yeah.
demonic. Let's pull this patch off and go turn it in and like
Yeah.
pretend like I have something to confess. And it was like
Yes.
such a good thing that I'd gotten that
Yes.
burden off. I'm like, no
Yeah.
weird significance with this patch. I was just looking for
No.
anything that I might have done. And I
Nope. I
found
gave up a spam
footsteps in the
shirt
journal that it
similarly.
was like, I don't think I did, but if I did, God, please show me that I did.
Yes.
Like almost hoping it was you, that you could
Yeah.
find a way to correct it and everyone could just move on.
And that's kind of one of the reasons why I ended up staying a little bit extra is I I tried so hard to find and establish that authentic relationship with God, like so, down there it's speaking in tongues and like prophecy and like God is like this real, you know, communication with you, right? And I remember, getting up early and going in closets and reading my Bible and just praying and wondering what is wrong with me because nobody is talking to me. I'm not having any of these feelings. And finally, after so long of basically being in trouble because it wasn't happening, I just started faking it because I don't know what I'm supposed to do, you know?
We learn to
How,
survive.
yes,
And
yes,
it's like, okay, what do
absolutely.
I need to do to survive this level? Because if I
Yeah,
don't pass this level, I'm stuck here.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, do you remember what your favorite dorm was? Or did you have one?
My favorite dorm was Hope Dorm.
Okay.
So most of the time that I was there, Sister Kelly was a dorm mom and Faith dorm, and I thought she was mean. Sister, and I don't remember if Sister Charlotte was already there or she came around the time I did, but Sister Charlotte in Hope Dorm, she was just a sweet old lady. And in Charity with Sister Jessica, and Sister Jessica was young and she had a baby and she was like the cool dorm mom. So like all the cool girls were friends with her, and I was definitely not a cool girl.
Oh, she hated me
Um,
apparently. According
did
to the
she?
journal, she hated me. She
Oh
picked on me.
no.
I didn't understand why she didn't like me because she seemed to like
Oh,
everyone else. Oh,
yes,
I
that's how I
went on and
felt.
on about her. I'm
Okay,
like, I didn't even
I
remember
feel
her
better.
until I saw that. But yeah, no,
Yeah,
I guess she didn't like
no.
me.
Yeah, so I think Hope Dorm, because like Sister Charlotte would hug you once in a while.
Yeah,
If you were really upset, she'd pat you. Like there was some real gentleness there. She also was the best cook.
yeah,
Yeah.
yep. I have some notes about Sister Karen being really
Yeah.
sweet, giving
That's yes,
hugs,
she also was.
giving that
Yeah.
motherly energy when I think that
Yeah.
so many of us were just craving that and seeking
Yes.
it in approval from administration, rule following,
Yeah.
perfectionism with the white glove inspections,
Yeah.
the merit demerit system, like everything was earned.
Yeah.
And it didn't feel like love was freely given.
No.
And there was a line that I had written in my journal, and it was like, they don't love us. They only pretend like they do because it's their job.
Mm,
And it
mm.
was like, okay, I can
Yeah.
understand how that's true of anyone in a social worker type
Sure.
scenario,
But we
but
live here. Come on. Yeah.
it's still what we needed as kids. We
Yes.
should have at least
Yeah.
felt that.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Favorite animals?
So I did like the pigs. They were disgusting, and having to deal with the slop bucket was disgusting. But everything else is disgusting,
Yeah,
like I'm still mad at the horses because that's one of the ways I got tricked into going. I know another girl mentioned it that you spoke to about how she went willingly because she said that her parents told her there was horses there. Well, that's what I was also told. It's like, oh, you could ride horses and
it's like
like
a glorified summer camp.
yeah, and I was like, I don't know, I like horses, fine.
Yeah.
Well, we never got to ride those horses that we were allowed to. I did ride one of the cows, but that was not a great experience.
Gosh, how long did you stay on it for?
Not long, not long. He got up, he didn't like it.
Oh my gosh. What were some of the weird chores that you remember doing on work program day? Like things that most 15, 16, 17-year-old girls would just never in a million years be doing.
Post hole digging, the building the entire enclosure to the pig area over on that like side by the woods. I remember a handful of times getting taken to like a couple like na in the area, I guess, farms and like, moving hay for farmers there, stuff like that, um, a lot of a lot of just intensive physical work, there was a difference between like having to work in the garden and having to work in the garden on hard labor, like, regular working, you could sit down, hard labor, you couldn't, it was just so
Yeah,
much
that's
work. And like
right.
I was a pretty lazy kid. So
You
like
could
you
sit on a
said that
bucket.
you said that you kind of found like, some release in working because, you needed that, that physical activity. And I think it was used punitively against me because I was a lazy kid.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to do it. I didn't even know how to wash my own clothes when I got there, like
Oh my
nothing.
gosh, I remember that nut grass in the garden. It felt like that stuff was never
Yeah.
ending.
Nope.
I'd
The
be
garden was the worst. The sunburns, being out in the heat. We're from Washington,
yeah,
I've never been in heat. The first time I walked off the plane and it was only April or April or May or something, and I'm like, I couldn't breathe. No, it was
yeah,
horrible. I hated that garden.
yeah, that was rough. So, was there ever a lice outbreak when you were there?
Yep. I remember the lice outbreak. I don't remember if it was mayonnaise or baby oil, one of those weird home remedies and wrapping our
Oh
heads.
yeah.
And yeah,
So
disgusting. I remember that.
I remember it was like cooking oil, olive oil, like some kind of oil,
Something.
baby
Yeah.
oil
It
even.
was something weird. Yeah.
Like saturate your hair and
Wrap it
scalp with
in
it. wrap it in
Saran
saran
wrap.
wrap, and then put a scarf on or something and go work outside in the
Yeah.
sun all day.
Yes.
And then to get it
Yes.
out of the hair, you'd wash with palm olive. Had to be palm olive
Yep.
because it would cut the grease, but not totally strip all of the moisture out of your
Yeah.
hair. But apparently it
God.
was supposed to like suffocate the larva or something. But I just remember like I had such bad acne and like this oil
Hmm.
dripping down my face in the hot
Yeah.
sun. My graduation picture, like my face is beet red
Yes.
because I'd been outside nonstop. I just
My memories of you are beet red.
face was always red. And
Yes.
I went to the dermatologist this week and they did one of those like photo pictures that shows you sun
Yeah.
damage. And she's
Oh
like, did you have a
no.
lot of sun damage as a kid? And I'm like, huh, funny you should ask that. Yes, there
Yeah.
was a stretch where I had a lot of sun
Sure
damage.
did. More sun than I ever want to have again.
Yep. And farmer's tans.
Yes. Yeah. Yep.
Did you ever get to go on any Walmart outings?
So I don't remember any Walmart outings. I remember us going to like oh, I remember us going to the movies once and leaving early. Um it was that animated movie like about Mars, like the Looney Tunes, live action
Oh,
movie. And
Space
we got
Jam.
there. No, I
Uh,
don't think it was Space Jam. It was like the Martians one or whatever.
okay.
Something like that, but that was like they didn't know when they got us or we were given the tickets to go what that movie was about. And like within the first 10 minutes, it was like, I think it was like cuss word. It was something we had to leave. We didn't get to stay.
In the journal, apparently we went and saw Balto, which was
Okay,
like
I
a
didn't go.
dog cartoon
Okay.
movie. I'm like, all right, we'll
Yeah.
get Balto. Apparently it was lame then too, but at least we got to
And
go to
these
the movies.
weren't these so these were outings you could buy with merit,
Yeah.
right?
Oh yeah, we had to
Yeah.
earn
Okay.
everything. You didn't
Yeah.
just like get to go to one of these things.
No.
It's gonna cost
No,
you.
I didn't think so. That's yeah.
Oh my gosh, so weird. Did you ever consider running?
No. God, and I considered working up the nerve to want to.
Yeah.
Oh my God,
And
but
then
I'm
probably
like,
felt guilty for
where
the thought.
where am I gonna go? We're in the middle of nowhere, freaking Texas, like
Yeah.
ah, we were told, that they'd bring out horses and dogs from the prison.
Yeah.
We were told that, farmers in the area knew to look out for girls. And I'm like, no,
I'm
I'm
good.
good. I'm good.
Oh, so let's see. Did you make friends there?
I did. There's I'm Facebook friends with, quite a few, women still. Afterwards I did have, talked to a few people like Ashley, which I mean her first name was Paige, but she went by Ashley.
Remember her?
We talked for a while afterwards when she was in the military, and then we just kind of lost touch. I'm still friends with Christy K. We get along much better now. So there's that. Sarah Riley or Sarah, sorry. I'm still friends with her. Yeah, quite a few,
Yeah.
quite a few people.
Oh my goodness. Any special outings where you left the farm? I mean, I heard about the one where the infamous
Yeah,
call happened, but it was hard because we were
it
far
was.
away.
Yeah.
Outings were
No, the
short.
the one time I did get to go home, um, I don't remember a whole lot really about being there. I just remember being made fun of because I had a little bit of an accent from Texas.
That's funny. Did you
Yeah.
get made
And
fun of in Texas for
yeah.
having an accent?
I don't remember getting made fun of for having an accent, but I definitely remember like taking up like fixin' to,
Right.
you know, that stuff.
There was one phrase I used in the journal, pitching a fit, or so and so thought I was going to pitch a fit. I was like, I have
Nice.
never in my life
No,
used the phrase pitch a fit, not
no,
since,
that's funny.
but it was there. So talk to me about music. What kind of music did you like before getting there?
So I listened to, a lot of Metallica and Korn, and I was really super into Nine Inch Nails, which I still am. I was really into, that kind of music, and
Cool.
grunge was coming up. Yes, it was such a wonderful time to be a teenager. However, I also was really, really into like 90s rap and R&B.
Yeah.
So mostly I would say my teenage, personality was just very much around like, metal music and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But no, the 90s was a great time for music.
You know, especially coming up in the Seattle area, because before the explosion of grunge music, I feel like it
Hmm.
wasn't cool to be from Seattle. And then grunge music
Yeah,
came on the scene and it was like, oh,
yeah,
you're from Seattle? Cool.
right.
Okay.
Yeah, no, for sure. But it was tough too, because like I think these were the ones, and I'd have to like look it up. But while we were there, I remember coming out and being like, oh, Kurt Cobain killed himself, and Tupac got shot. And I'm just like, what is going on? Like, just the
Yeah.
world was different because we didn't know anything.
Right.
A lot of really big stuff happened.
We missed out on a lot of pop
Yeah,
culture
yeah.
and a lot of new music releases.
Yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, and how about when you got back? Did your music taste kind of stay the same?
Um, Pretty much. At first when I got back, I tried so hard to be good,
Yeah.
to not listen to secular music, and because I didn't want to be tempted, by the devil. So, um, but I think almost immediately I went back to listening to good music because that
Yeah.
was just crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the end was doing resurrection flashback
Yeah.
in the mornings or Sundays or whatever. So you got to catch up on like the old stuff and then some of
Yeah.
the new stuff.
Yeah, no, I
And that
got to
was
go
like,
to End Fest in 97, which was a couple months after I got home, which was amazing. And see a lot of bands that just aren't anymore. So
yeah, yeah. No,
yeah,
it was such an amazing era of music. It's
yeah,
cool that you got to see some of those too.
yeah,
Oh my gosh.
yeah.
Yeah, I remember going to, this is weird. I had like not even thought about this before, but there was a Christian bookstore in the mall in Texarkana, and they would take
Hmm.
us there and let us spend some time. And they had the headphones that you can put on and then like push different samples of
Yeah,
music. So we would go through and try to find bands that sounded somewhat like the music that we liked.
yeah,
And remember like Jars of Clay in that era.
yeah. And Christian rap, yes, yes, yep. But even
There was
that was like a little pushing it because it sounded like secular music,
right.
which was also not cool.
So we had that like they were called God's property or something. Like
Hmm.
GP, are you with me? And I
Hmm.
remember like rapping to this in the van on the way. It was like
Yeah.
the closest that we could get to rap.
Yeah.
Just
I'm like, this is fine. This is the same.
obsessing over Sister Act 1 and 2.
Yes. Yep. Yep.
What was church there like for you?
Horrifying. Oh my gosh. So when I got there, I got in late on a Saturday night. Everybody else was in bed, uh, except for the dorm mom. And, you know, I was offered a pack of Oreos that I turned down that I'll never forget, ever forget those pack of Oreos I turned down. Um, but the next morning, get up early, get ready for church. And being there the first time was like horrifying. I mean, I'd say that the church that we grew up in, like there was tambourines, but they were very chill about it. Like, there, I remember a handful of like prophecy kind of situation that at church, but nothing bonkers,
Right.
very reserved. Going to, God, what was her? I can't remember her name right now, but going
Mary
to that
Joan.
church. Thank you. Oh my gosh. Next morning after I got there, I'm just like, it was so loud and just abrasive and in your face. And I'm like, I wonder if my grandparents know they sent me to a cult because this is crazy.
Yeah. Do you
No, that was
remember
tough.
her outfits?
She was crazy. Her makeup,
Yes. And the hair,
and she always just seemed larger than life too. And just,
everything,
yes,
everything
yes,
head to toe, belt buckle to shoes. Like it was
yes,
all big
yes.
Texas
Yep.
female prison outreach ministry. Like that was one of
Yes.
their specialties.
And she had
Um,
huge creepy eyes.
yeah,
I
she
remember huge
did. And
creepy
she would
eyes.
stand over you and like totally
Yeah.
bug out. It was
Yes. Yeah, no, that was, I was just like, oh my God. And then also like even just like participating in that like flavor of Christianity was always really hard. I've always kind of been a very reserved kind of, person in that regard. I didn't think that like worship and all that stuff was really like an outward thing. And so, you know, basically too, if you didn't participate, you were judged for that. So like having to push myself into that, that was really hard for me. That was
yeah.
really hard.
Do you remember the services being exceptionally long?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I also remember the ride there being pretty long, but when I looked it up on a map, it really wasn't that long. So,
So I had that same reaction. I could have
yeah,
sworn it was so much longer. It felt
seriously.
like we were on those vans forever.
I think it's because just Texas is just flat and brown and horrible, so it just feels like forever. Where we were at, anyways.
It was monotonous at best.
Oh, yeah.
And like the tambourine thing was weird because it wasn't just like a couple people standing on stage playing tambourines along with the
No.
instrument. This was like there was a bin of tambourines and you go
Yes.
pick your tambourine and
Yeah.
then you march around the
Hmm.
outside. So you're literally just moving, marching,
Yeah.
shaking tambourines. And there was like definitely this spectrum of like how into it you were. You had the new girls
Yeah.
that are looking around like, where am I? What is this? And why do I
Yeah.
have this thing in my hand? And then you got those that are really getting into it. And it did almost feel like a time for you to be observed and
Hmm.
you were being graded on
Yeah.
your faith. Are you taking
Absolutely.
notes? Are you engaged? Are you falling asleep in your chair? Like
Yeah.
you were being
Yeah.
monitored for
No,
sure.
absolutely. Yeah.
What a time. Do you feel like the white glove inspections and rules impacted how you live as an adult?
Yeah, for sure. I can still fold a fitted sheet like nobody's business. It's kind of a party trick, that apparently nobody else was taught either. So that feels pretty good. Hospital corners. I don't make my bed that way, but I can if I want
Yeah.
to.
Yeah.
But it also kind of made me like a perfectionist. Like I had to stop volunteering to mow my lawn because it would take me all day because everything had to be perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. Every single inch of it. And like I would make myself sick doing it, you know? Yeah, there's a lot of those like little kind of things. Now, I will say those a lot of those skills are things that I would count as maybe positives of the experience
Right.
because I was kind of like, a teenager, didn't give a crap about any of that. I learned a lot of stuff that I never would have ever.
Yeah.
Um, if you want to see a silver lining.
Right. Right. No, I mean, it's just we all have to go through whatever we go through in life,
Right.
right? So
Yes.
it's like that
Yeah.
concept of yin and yang. If I'm gonna have to have
Yes.
some negative,
Yes.
let me at least have some cool stories, a couple of parlor tricks
Yeah.
to be able to pull out here and there.
I mean, like
And
I haven't had to, but if I needed to, I could put up a fence.
yeah, I don't know when I'm gonna need to lay
Yeah.
that paper, the
Yeah.
tar paper, and
I can
shingle a
drive a
roof, but
tractor.
I could.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh my gosh. So do you feel like the restrictions around food impacted your relationship with food later into your teen years or adult life?
Oh, yes. So I'm still a food hider. Which I didn't really realize that's what it was until probably like the last, I don't know, last few years or so. That I actually like have food insecurity. Um, but I realize I have little snack stashes everywhere in my
Yeah.
desk, in my room, in my offices, like, and I'm like realizing like I'm not sneaking doing it, but I'm still hiding food. Still
Right,
hiding
right.
food.
Not that there's a
Still hide
reason
food.
to, it's just old
No,
habits, right?
no, I still hide food. Yeah. Yeah.
So fascinating. I was thinking about one dish that well, I've got a couple that I still kind of make from there, but one of them is like this Thanksgiving dish, sweet potato pie. It's not made
Hmm.
with, yeah, it cornflake topping, pecans,
Sure.
all of that. But these weird things that I remember getting like very small portions of and
Yes.
fantasizing about the day that I could make that
Oh,
if I wanted to sit and eat the whole damn pan.
yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
the same thing went for those
food
little
fantasies.
Yeah, those little packages of cookies. Like yours was the two Oreos
Yep.
the night you got there. Mine was a huge plate of
Yeah.
nachos. And it was like,
Yeah.
well, into the pig bucket, you don't get that.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
how often we would get like the 2 pack of Snackwells or the two Nutter Butter cookies and be like, oh, to just be able to go through an entire sleeve of these.
I did. My daughter told me just recently, my oldest daughter, she said, I didn't realize that growing up, whenever you'd make like white chicken enchiladas, that like you were also kind of traumatized.
So if you ask the kids, like, top things that I make, one of them, they would
Yeah.
literally call Texas dinner. And
Oh
it's
God.
chicken,
Yeah.
fried chicken, biscuits, gravy, mashed potatoes,
Yes.
green beans,
Yeah. Oh man.
which apparently, like, it was called cha cha chicken. We had a
Yes.
stupid
Oh my
amount of it.
God.
The
You're
freezers were
right.
overflowing. So it was like 101 ways to cook this
I
free
have not
patty.
heard that. It's so, you're right. That's exactly what it was. That and the one that I'm still traumatized by. Do you remember all that emu meat we had? That dark, disgusting emu meat that got volunteered or got donated?
Okay,
Oh my
so
God, that
I'm having this weird memory
disgusting.
of a stretch of time. And if anyone remembers this about me, but I was obsessed with bread, and the only thing I would eat was bread. And I don't know why they allowed us to have just like, what are we having for a
Yeah.
snack? I want a couple pieces of white bread.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was an alternative. Like, if I didn't want to eat whatever it was, well, fine, you can have 2 pieces of
Yeah.
bread. So I'm wondering if it might have been so I didn't have to have the emu meat.
I that was a wise choice. A wise, wise choice.
No wonder my skin was so broken out all the time. I
All right.
literally have things in my journal about like my tummy hurts. I made the mashed potatoes too rich and like
Yeah.
little things like that. Did you have dreams or nightmares after you left there?
I I don't remember specifically, but I remember very clearly being terrified of being sent back.
Yeah.
Particularly, knowing that that was a thing. You got
Right.
sent back. My older girl got sent back. So I was just absolutely petrified of it and also couldn't really talk to anybody about it.
Right.
But dreams or nightmares, no, I think it was just the absolute terror that I would be a hostage in Texas again,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember having some irrational fears in my mid 20s after having 2 children that
No,
I was going to be sent back. They couldn't, but it was still in my
right.
mind that there was some way that they could. And well, maybe if, my then husband and my mom both signed, and then it could happen. And like having
Oh
to
my
talk to the two of them
gosh.
about it, and my mom being like, what? Why are you
Yeah.
like, I
No,
don't know
that,
how to explain it, but this is a legitimate fear. I'm absolutely petrified that you're trying to
yeah,
take me away from my children because I'm not a fit mother. I'm like, these
I
were
bet.
weird fears that I was
Yeah.
still processing at that time. So it's like, yeah, healed, changed, grown a lot since then, but
Yeah.
you kind of you deal with some of those big immediate things and then just kind of close the chapter. I mean, we all have those
Yeah.
chapters of our life that we don't read out loud. We might say
Hmm.
something in passing here or there to someone, but when it's this lingering thing that kind of keeps rearing its head here and there, and for me,
Yes.
I think the latest and final trigger that really pushed me, okay, you need to do this, was that last competition. And I'm weighing out a little Ziploc bag of
Hmm.
cereal, and you know
Hmm.
all I'm doing is like calculating my own macros for the day and calories and doing it for
Right.
clients. And when I'm sucking someone down to like single digit body fat for a bodybuilding competition, the number of calories they're getting in a day is like double or triple what we were
Hmm.
getting as
Oh yeah.
growing teenage girls
Yes.
performing hard physical labor,
Yeah.
working from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And it was like, I'm crying over this cereal, like trying to explain it to my husband. And I'm like, I can't be upset with you for not understanding. But at the same time, I'm looking at you like, there's no way you can understand. Like, I
No.
kind of need to connect with
Yeah.
people that
Yes.
understand this weird brand of trauma. And if nothing else, just say, is this normal? Or did anyone else
Yeah.
feel this?
No, I think that like some people that I've talked to, they understand the negativity around the experience and they hear it and they're like, wow, that's terrible,
Mhm.
but like to understand what that really means, like, yeah, that there's a really small number of people that really get that.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, okay, any random weirdness that you remember there?
So it's really
Story.
funny because I did take a handful of notes.
Yeah.
Um, one of the things that I remember, which is, I don't know, it's one of my favorite stories, is being on hard labor with my younger girl, Christy K, because again, we weren't getting along, and being out near the horses. And we walked behind I don't know, it was like the gray or the white one, I can't remember. And when we walked by, I slapped the horse right on his butt, right? So he kicked Christina. And I I loved it because I was so mad at her because we all we did was get, like argue and get in trouble.
Yeah.
Um, now thinking about it, and I apologized to her about that for like years ago, and we laugh about it now. But I just will never forget slapping that horse and looking back, and like Christina tried to like move out of the way, but it just kind of like she just kind of like flew towards the
Yeah.
side instead. I'll never forget it. No.
Oh my gosh.
The another weird thing that I had wrote down, just I mean, there's so many things and we could probably do this for
Yeah.
days, but um like sneaky bad things we did. So I was in a dorm for a period of time where we would play the pass out game back in the bunk bedroom, where basically you lean over and you breathe really hard for like, I don't know, a minute or something. And then you stand up really fast and you cross your arms and somebody pushes against your arms and you pass out. In that moment of passing out, it feels like forever and you like dream and it was crazy. Now that I'm grown, I realize how like stupid and dangerous that was. But that was amazing.
Funny. Okay. And that was literally like the only high we could catch at that place. You couldn't
Yes.
even have like alcohol-based hairspray. They would like
No.
go
Yeah.
through and check your shampoo and everything. I
No.
mean, you couldn't even be sniffing nail polish remover if that was even a thing,
Heck
because that
no.
was locked up and everything.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, no, everything like that was locked up. I mean, you mentioned like razors on one of your other interviews. Like I just quit. I was like, I don't want to do this anyway. This is stupid.
The whole
I'm
thing
not
was
gonna sit
weird.
on the floor and dry shave. You're crazy.
Ouch.
Yeah.
No, they weren't
Nah.
good razors either.
No. No.
I have like this terrible story in here. It's like I kind of remembered it. I remember there being an incident of putting a dead moth in someone's food.
Ah,
I didn't remember who, I didn't remember who
sure.
else was involved, but apparently I was cook. And it's like I can see this lead up because I'm talking about this one person that has a really bad attitude and everyone's annoyed with her. And it's like I shouldn't have. I feel bad, but I
Yeah.
was just so fed
Yes.
up with it. I couldn't take it. I put a dead moth in her food, but apparently other people knew about it and like were laughing about it. But it was like
Oh no. Yes.
I was being my authentic self and they thought it was funny. I wasn't trying to be funny, but in that moment, I was like,
Yeah.
I did something bad and they actually liked and accepted me. This is
Yes.
interesting because everything was always just like toe the line, try to be as perfect as possible, don't get
Yep.
anyone else in trouble, and just like reaching that point of fed up frustration. And it's like that was how I was going to take it out on her. But
God, that's so funny.
um so yeah, I guess we already talked about the transition out of the
Hmm.
program because that was definitely weird. I mean, you kind of feel like you lost a year plus of life.
Well, and like to go from like just every single minute being so structured and sheltered, and then going back to a life that like I recognize all the people, but again, different house, different, completely different city, none of my friends. And having gone through what we did, the money, the time, all that stuff, right? And I was raised by my grandparents, so I went home to my grandparents, and instead of returning to traditional high school, I did running start, which for people that might not know, that's when you take college classes, and you get like high school credit for it. So I was going to Peninsula College in Port Angeles, but it was a decent drive from where I lived. And we're talking, 3 or 4 months maybe after I graduated. And so after all that structure, and again, I just turned 16, all that structure, all that time, all that everything, my after commuting for a little while, my grandparents decided it was a fine idea to let me just live in the dorms. And
Wow.
so I highly discourage anybody to never let a 16-year-old live in the dorms, because that was the beginning of the end. I went completely buck wild. I lost a good 3 years of my life
Yeah.
to
Wow.
just, because after a certain point, I was like, oh, I really realized that like they weren't going to send me back because we can't afford it. There's no
Yeah.
way we could ever afford it again. And I'm like, all right,
I'm safe. I'm
yeah, I'm gonna
glad
do
you
whatever I
brought that
want.
part up because also through the journal there's multiple entries where I'm stressed about my parents' finances. And
Hmm.
I'm feeling guilty because they had to
Yeah.
pay to send me to this place. And if not for my behavior, they wouldn't have to be paying for
Yes.
this.
Yep.
And yeah, that weird guilt that's tied up in it,
Yeah.
wishing that they hadn't spent the money on it, just keep it
Yeah.
home. You don't have
Right.
to go through this. You could have just threatened, and I probably would have shaped up, promise.
Right. You just took me there for a visit. I'd be like, my bad. You really mean
you
it.
know,
Okay.
I had the thought they should have had like the light version. For the
Yeah.
girls
Like
that weren't
on
total
Scared
hard
Straight.
cases,
Yeah.
two
Take us to
weeks,
jail and let them yell at us first.
two
Don't
weeks
just
scared
toss us
straight.
in.
Yeah. Give them one day of hard labor just to show them what it's like. Give them the whole,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
enough to be like, this is where you'll come back to,
Right.
charge a flat fee for it or something.
Not 11 months of your life. Oh.
Yeah, yeah, I had that phrase pop into my mind because I'm like, man, everyone stayed for a different amount of time. And
Hmm.
sometimes it was dependent on when other people were ready to graduate. So you could have been ready and they would push you out because they had other people that were going to be ready at that time.
So I actually graduated by myself. And how that happened was Sarah R. was supposed to graduate with me, and we were weeks away from graduating. And, I don't want to like, tell much about her story. And I never want to step on anybody's shoes. But I think just the pressure she just kind of cracked.
Yeah.
And so funny because I remember, being pulled out of something and being asked to go talk to her to be like, hey, get it together. We're going to graduate, and I did. We're about to graduate. We're going to go home and just, so she didn't end up graduating, and I don't recall what happened. So I was horrified too, because I'm like, girl, if you don't graduate, that means I probably don't get to either. Pull it together, you
Yeah.
know. But I did graduate by myself. And I will say that was a real bummer, because you are looking forward to that moment, ooh, getting that little silver ring,
Yeah.
oh my God, when I get to leave, I'm going to go to Wendy's, whatever, McDonald's, you know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like,
There's a party
and
for you. Everyone
yes,
makes a
and
big deal.
it was just so meh, whatever. It was just me. Like, I was like, really? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
But the end of my stay was a little bit, I don't know, different too, because like I ended up living in the trailer for a while.
Oh.
Um, which also wasn't awesome, because again, you're going from a very structured communal family environment.
Mhm.
You're living in the trailer. Nobody's making dinner. Nobody really gives a crap. And then like, because food is so very monitored, you can't just go to a dorm and have dinner with them,
Right.
because then you're taking a portion from everybody else. So it was just kind of this weird in between phase for me at the end. And I don't remember how long it was, but
Yeah.
I remember I think her name was Sandy, was living at the dorms at the time that I was too, I think.
Remember Sandy. Yeah,
Yeah.
so for those that don't know, there was three dorms on the property, but there was also a trailer that was like staff house, so the dorm moms could go stay
Hmm.
for a couple of days when they were on their days off to get away from the girls. They would
Hmm.
have girls that were about ready to graduate stay there just to clear out space in the other dorms for new girls coming into the program. They also had some like at different times junior dorm moms that might stay there, but if you were trusted, you'd been there a while, it was seen as kind of a privilege to go
Yeah.
live in the trailer. I mean, it's such a
Yeah.
weird phrase, but like we wanted to go live in the trailer. And
Yeah.
it's Ayana brought it up last night when I talked to her and I found it in the journal, but there was an addition made to that trailer, a room that was built on. and I was one of the girls that helped build that room.
That's funny.
Roofed it, shingled it, just
Yeah.
all of it unpermitted. Just I can't imagine the
Right.
kind of work, but it's like in my journal, clearly I was running a skill saw.
Yeah.
I'm like, what?
Yes.
I don't even know that I would really
Hmm.
try to run a skill saw now today without supervision,
Absolutely
but
not.
I was doing it.
Yeah. No. That's crazy.
There's another story about hearing voices in the woods and getting really scared, only to find out it was
Oh.
prisoners that were
Ooh.
doing something out there, supervised, but still, like we were real
Yeah.
close to that prison.
Yeah. I remember one time going on lockdown and we all went to charity dorm. And they literally locked us down because somebody ran from the prison and they were
Yeah,
looking for them. Yeah. It was weird.
this was such a weird era. Like it's
Yeah.
surreal because I mean, yes, we lived it, but to talk about it in detail with someone else who lived that experience has been cool. Because I mean, I don't
Seriously.
know about you, but I haven't really had the opportunity to do that
No.
until just recent.
No, yeah, just a little bit. I over the years here and there, I'd see something, pop up on Reddit or, I know, Paris Hilton came out with her stuff about, like I think it was Teen Challenge or
Yeah.
one of the other ones, that was, very different. So like the whole troubled teen industry has finally been getting some like attention. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, hey, I participated in this thing,
Yeah.
but I don't know how to talk about it at all.
Right.
Yeah, it's surreal, it's exciting, but also, kind of picks the scab on some stuff, perhaps.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Been having a few more vivid dreams. It's just interesting to like you said, kind of break the scab open on some of
Yeah,
this stuff and
yeah,
feel it and process it and just
yeah.
kind of revisit that chapter of life. And by other people sharing their stories and memories, it's kind of jogging my
Yes.
memory and bringing
Yeah.
these things back. It's wild.
I know like on the interviews that you've been sharing, I'm just like, oh my God, I have so much to say about this one. Like, I
Yeah.
remember like last night when I was at work, I was watching I think it was last night, the your interview with Jennifer. And like as I was watching it, I was like actually taking notes. I'm like, oh my gosh, no, I gotta
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
Because I think there's things like I have such vivid memories of, certain things. And then I've got like really fuzzy details, and it's just amazing to have some of those things, just having somebody else say, yes, I was there and it happened and it sucked
yeah.
is so powerful.
Just to be validated.
Yes. Yep.
Because I think during that era for us, much of what we experienced and felt was not validated. It was the
No.
opposite. It was invalidated. Where we experienced physical pain or illness or injury, and we're
Hmm.
told that it was Satan's attack on us, and we
Yes.
needed to give it to God. That our
Yeah.
faith was being tested, and some of these wild things.
Yeah.
I'm reading these words of a 16-year-old in pain that's thinking she didn't pray hard enough
Yes.
for God to take the pain away.
Oh,
That's
yes.
ugh.
Yep. Just constantly feeling like I'm doing something wrong. I have to be doing something wrong. It's
Yeah.
not, doesn't feel the way that they're telling me it should feel,
Yeah.
you know? Yeah,
What an era. So I think this is kind of cathartic. It's
it is.
healing. I hope it's healing for
It
us.
is. No, it absolutely
It's
is.
so good to be able to find our voice again when we experience talk isolation and didn't have this opportunity. So
Just seeing everybody's face again just is, watching like, you and Jennifer, I'm just like, wow, that's so crazy. I never ever thought, I
didn't
didn't,
even realize it was her until we
no.
started talking, and then it all
Yeah.
starts. I'm going, oh my goodness, wait. And then I find the pictures
No.
after. I'm like, oh, like
Yes.
full on graduated together. How did I not remember that there was only
Yes.
five of us and two of you were named
Yeah.
Jennifer out of the five? So
Yes.
come on.
Yes. Yep. The other Jennifer with her black hair. Oh, no, she was always so sophisticated. Yeah.
Right. And
Yes.
it's also interesting because we all have this perception of who we thought people were
Oh my gosh,
based
yeah.
on how we saw them. So it's been kind of
Yes.
fun to tell people like this is kind of who I thought you were. How close
Yeah.
was I? And it's like I already knew you, So it was a
Yeah.
little different. Plus,
Right.
it was my second time going back, but it's like you were that age between me and my sister, which was
Yes.
my
Yep.
cousin's age. So, a
Yeah.
little bit younger, um, athletic,
Yep.
slightly nerdy,
Yep.
just like, but just a kid.
Well,
Like,
I was always grateful for you too, because like not only did you have, Holy Highway with me, even like, after like off and on through the years, like when we've like maybe been Facebook friends or something, knowing deeply and just kind of feeling very judged and outcast by, our mutual community. I
yeah.
just always loved keeping up with you because I'm like, she's rebellious and doesn't care, and I love that.
It's funny
I
because
feel normalized.
I don't feel that was me before the
No,
program.
yeah.
It wasn't me in the program.
Yeah,
But
no.
once
No.
once I had that deconstruction that I went
Yes.
through in my late 20s, once I had this wild, powerful, crazy psychedelic experience, which really put
Yes.
me in touch with
Yes.
that wounded inner
Absolutely.
child. It was like 5 years worth of therapy all in one
Oh
session,
God.
and I'm
Yeah.
crying, having the most profound healing from God that I've ever experienced. Just something so
Right.
different than the toxic mumbo jumbo
Yes.
that I'm spewing in this childhood journal of mine, but like something real and authentic and powerful and healing. And then just the freedom to kind of go my way without caring as much.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's just been so powerful and liberating and freeing. And I still feel that I have this calling or this mission, and I have a tendency to kick hornets nests and stir things up a little bit.
Yeah.
And
Well,
maybe I am that trigger, to come into people's lives a little bit and poke a little bit in a very
yeah.
nice and respectful way, but to say, hey, I'm on this healing journey. It's not super comfortable, but I bet you it's
Yeah.
easier if more of us do it together.
No, absolutely. And like, yeah, no, I really, that really resonates with me. I think I was always considered, like rebellious and like a loud mouth and a big mouth and like all that kind of stuff. But, just for like, honestly, just like in very like just typical ways. But it wasn't until probably my 30s that I was like, no, I actually started shedding giving a crap about what people think. Like
Yeah.
before I was just like outspoken, like to like jar people or to be funny, right? And then like in my 30s, something wonderful happened where I was like, no, I'm just actually just gonna be who I am and everybody can get over it.
Yeah.
Like that
Yeah.
was very freeing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it takes an amount of, just emotional maturity,
Right.
and that
Right.
happens different ways for different people.
And kind of embracing that, well, they all kind of think I'm a rebel and a troublemaker
Yeah,
and a little bit of this and
right.
that anyway. So,
Yeah,
in
yeah,
many ways, if we weren't that before going into the
yes.
program, I think we kind of came out with an element of that.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. Like you basically just showed me that it's impossible, so what's the point?
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
always going to be terrible.
Yeah. I got that scarlet letter. How am I going to hide
Yeah,
that? So,
right. Yeah.
like, half the people thought you were like shipped off because you're pregnant or something.
Yes. Yep.
And the stories that would get told, there were so many rumors, and nobody would just come
Hmm.
up and ask you what happened. So
Yeah.
everyone's looking at you with their own version of what they thought you got sent away for, which is
Right.
definitely bad. That's all they know.
Right.
And their parents probably warned you to not get too close to them.
Yep. Oh boy, yeah.
So yeah, yeah, we're those troublemakers that the moms tried to keep their boys away from.
God, your parents are going to be so excited to know that we're friends again. You're going to think that I'm badly influencing you again.
Oh, Lindsay's gonna get a kick out of this too. Oh my gosh. Well, this has been such an incredible episode. Thank you
Yeah, it
so much
has.
for doing this.
Thank you too. Like really honestly, providing like the platform and the time and the energy to, for us to get like our stories out and also just kind of heal together. Like
Yeah.
we've been, trying to, many of us recover on our own in different ways. And it's kind of nice, like right now to maybe begin like doing it together.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm really excited to see where this goes. I think it's going to be a little bigger than I had
Yeah.
initially thought when I was like, I just kind of
No,
share a
I'm
little bit
checking
of my
YouTube every day. I'm
story
like,
and
"Ooh, there's a new one. Who's here? Who's this girl?" Yeah.
20, 30 minutes of like a first episode. And I'm like,
Yeah.
why even post it? It's not going to make any sense. Like, I don't
I
even
get
know
it.
how to share a fraction of the stuff that I have. I'm like, well, that's kind of the point of this.
It
Scratch the
seems like you've had
surface.
pretty good response. It seems like,
Yeah.
it seems like there's quite a few girls that are like, no, I've got something to say. And it's funny because I keep hearing myself say girls. We're all women now.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're grown women, but in the program, we were just girls. We
We
were
were just
always
girls.
referred to as girls.
Yeah.
And so that just always just sticks in my head.
Right. I mean that's what we were. And I
Yeah.
kind of still think of us in many ways as that.
Yes. Yes.
That was who we were when we made this bond and this connection when we shared in this collective experience.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Well, on that note, this
Yes.
episode is dedicated to the girls of Holy Highway who lived their own
Yes.
version of craziness.
Yes. And
And
we love them and honor them however we can. Yes.
yeah, yeah, however you turned out, whether
Yep.
you're deeply involved in your church, whether
Yeah.
you ended up sending your kid to a program
Yeah.
like this, I mean, that would add another layer of complexity to unpack
Yeah.
years
Oh my
later too.
gosh.
So,
Right.
without any judgment, just nothing but love and respect for everyone and where they're
Yes.
at this point in their life, and in this phase of the journey. If you would like to share your story, drop us a little comment and we'll get you on the list because this is just so fascinating to hear these
I love it.
perspectives in your own words. So, Jolene, thank you
Very
so much
excited.
for being main character
Absolutely.
energy in my highway story.
Love it.
All right,
I'm
we'll talk
happy
to you
to.
soon. Bye.
Alrighty. Bye.